I thank you for your summons, dear child of mine. I am Eve, the first woman born from the rib of man. As a ruler, I hope to service you well. What's that? It says that I'm a pretender. Oh my, how silly of that little reader you have. Who else could I be but Eve? You believe your mother, don't you, Master?
Hey there, party people! I am back with another fan servant, this time, Eve. Though, of course, given the nature of the Pretender class, you all know that's not really the case here. But we will get to that, don't you worry. For now, we're just covering who she claims to be. But first, as always, a big thank you to Sabina for the amazing work she provided for this video. Eve is absolutely stunning, and just wait till you see more of her work later in the video. And thank you to the voice actress Echo, knocked it out of the park not once, but twice. Both of their links are in the description below, so please go show them the love and support that they deserve. And they deserve a lot. Now let's cover who Eve is, which is something I feel a lot of you might know. In common knowledge of Abrahamic religions, being Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, Eve is the wife of the first man, Adam. As the book of Genesis goes, God created many creatures on earth, all of whom shared a partner save for the sole human, Adam. Adam asked God for a partner that was like himself, so God had him fall into a deep sleep. In his sleep, God plucked a rib from his side and used it to create another human, a woman who would be named Eve. With this, Eve became the first of women, which is the name of her first skill. This skill increases the attack and NP gauge of all female allies and has a chance to cast charm on all enemies. Now, while in the story of Genesis, Eve is really made to be subservient to Adam, less of an equal, I did not want to represent that. So I instead took girl power in a literal sense and had Eve, mother of man, give a nice buff to the ladies. Her lack of practical clothing and curves are likely reason enough for the cause of the charm, but the actual idea behind it is that, as I just mentioned, she is seen as the mother of all humanity in a way. And while there are definitely some terrible mothers out there, the general thought is that it is wildly taboo to strike your mother. So that's where the charm comes in. But the thickness definitely helps. I wanted her to have a rather motherly and kind air about her, the perfect look and disposition for cuddling, which Sabina did masterfully, and will also be emphasized by the contrast you will see in a few minutes. The story of Genesis continues with Adam and Eve living peacefully in the Garden of Eden. Nothing to want for. They could have everything that was in the garden, save for the fruit from the tree of knowledge. That was strictly forbidden, and they obeyed. That is, until a serpent came to Eve and whispered in her ear, "Why not take the fruit? What harm would it be? Isn't it silly how it is only this fruit you cannot eat? Why would he put it within your reach if you are not meant to have it? Perhaps he's afraid you will become his equal." Eve was tempted many times like this until she gave in and ate of the forbidden fruit, even offering it to Adam. With it, they gained self-awareness and became ashamed of their nakedness and what they had done. They dressed themselves the best they could, and when God eventually found them in hiding, he banished them from the garden and brought upon them all mortal woes that we currently suffer, such as sickness, pain, and death. This is shown in Eve's second skill, Garden's Exile. It removes all defensive buffs on the field and inflicts curse to all on the field, including Eve herself. the burden of the original sin made to weigh down on all. None can escape from it, as it is said that we are born with it inherently. This skill causes it to manifest as a true punishment. I did consider calling it original sin, but it didn't feel quite right. After all, as I said in the beginning, as you can tell by the class, Eve is not her true identity. She's not the one that truly committed the original sin. But in my version of the story, this character did facilitate it.
Fine. You have me. Yes, I am the pretender Lilith, the first woman born alongside man. Really, what is the point of having this class if it spoils my reveal? No matter. What's important now is that you may see what I can really do, dear master of mine. You can always trust in me. Just let me coil around you like so, and I will give you all my power and wisdom.
Lilith is a figure from Jewish mythology, and is largely theorized to be the actual first woman. As the story goes, Adam and Lilith were made together, like all the other creatures. But Lilith refused to be subservient to Adam, wanting to be treated as equals instead, perhaps even being above him depending on who you ask. For this, God banished her from the garden. And this is where my version of the story comes into play for the purposes of this character in the Fate universe. She, in fact, did not leave the garden. She stayed, skulking and slithering among the trees and shadows, plotting and watching. She watched Eve, especially, hating and pitying her in equal measure. Eventually, she would tempt the other woman, coiling her body around her. Lilith would whisper sweetly into her ear about taking the forbidden fruit, tempting Eve into sin. This is where the third skill comes in, Serpent's Tongue. All allies gain arts and quick efficiency buffs, crit damage increases, and Lilith gains stars. Then all allies get a defense debuff. Lilith is the snake in the garden in this version of events, and gives those around her thoughts and ideas, perhaps ones that they shouldn't be having, emboldening them to take certain actions, all while she is lowering their guard so that she can get what she ultimately wants. However, the downfall of Adam and Eve and spiting God comes at a cost of its own. Lilith would be made into the primordial she-demon spoken of in myth, as she herself is struck down and truly exiled now. This leaves her to languish in darkness forever, biding her time until she can get what she wants. To tear down the heavens that condemned her simply for the unwillingness to be in servitude to one who should have been her equal. Now, I do hope that the whole pretender thing makes sense here. My approach was about the fact that both Eve and Lilith can be, and have been, referred to as the first woman. Eve, however, is the more popular choice for that title, and Lilith is less known by far in comparison in terms of general knowledge. It's a bit of a backwards take, as Lilith's claim to fame is unknowingly usurped by another whose name is the one that becomes more well known. So, in turn, when Eve is ever summoned, Lilith usurps that position and poses as Eve wholly and entirely. In a more typical Grail war, Lilith posing as Eve would be indistinguishable from a normal ruler until Lilith made herself known, much like how Pretender is meant to work. But that is more important for a future project. Now let's finish up Eve-Lilith's skill set with her noble phantasm, Fruit of Knowledge. It's a support arts noble phantasm that increases the NP gauge for all other allies drastically and gives them an overcharge buff. On top of this, it also removes all class disadvantages from your side of the field, but applies Disastrous Curse, increasing the damage of the Curse debuff. And the Overcharge effect increases NP damage for all allies. Through eating the forbidden fruit from the Tree of Knowledge, the consumer gains insight beyond their initial purview. They gain power and understanding, a sense of self. All things that are really weird to translate into FGO game mechanics. The only part that was straightforward is being cursed with knowledge and the whole original sin business. So I took the knowledge part and put it as the benefactor of this noble phantasm truly understands their own power, and for a brief time, they perfect it, thus making their own noble phantasms more potent and readily available. They also understand their own weaknesses, and are able to temporarily overcome them with now greater wisdom, thus the disadvantage removal. It's a bit of yada yada-ing, but I'm still happy with what I came up with for this fan servant. She is definitely the first one that I've really wanted to get Final Ascension art for, mostly because it'll be as absolutely homoerotic as I can reasonably get it, while still making sure it remains suitable for viewing. That was the tricky part overall for coming up with the designs for these two, making them naked to remain true to their origins, but to have them not be naked because you just can't do that. The shawl definitely helped that, but it is mostly thanks to Sabina for pulling it off with her amazing skill and craft. But hey, it's your move now, FGO! Go on and reveal that pink chick to be Lilith in Ordeal Call. I already have the superior one, so you can suck it! Anyway, there will be a larger gap in fan servants this time. These do cost money after all. I don't mind, of course. Sabina and the voice actors deserve every single penny of it, and I enjoy making these videos for their own sake. Still, I do have to be mindful of my spending at the end of the day, so I hope you understand. But if you are clamoring for more, I do have a Patreon. I don't really have a perfect idea for what to put there as exclusives. If there are any takers, I am sharing previews of Fate Unwritten Lines, my own personal Fate story, among other things, with artist permission, of course. I did just recently upload a fan servant that's going to be part of a future video. Not part of this series, it's like the alters that I would love to have in Fate Grand Order kind of thing. So there's a sneak preview to that if you're interested. So yeah, feel free to support me on Patreon to feed my addiction of supporting artists. And you get to see the arts that I have commissioned for videos before I even make the videos. Is that sound like a good deal? I'm kind of terrible at this. Either way, there's no pressure. With all that said, let me know down in the comments below what you think of Eve and Lilith. I'm very interested to find out. Thank you so much for watching. I have to catch you next time in the void. Later.